Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low magazine? Because 4Low magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on the newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. Thanks for joining us. Today, we are going to be interviewing none other than Creighton King, now known as Mr. Grip Ties, but previously known in the rock crawling world as Mr. Maxxis. So Creighton King, it's so great to have you on board here with Conversations with Big Rich and talking about the history of rock sports from your perspective.
Yeah.
And rock crawling and trail wheeling and all that kind of stuff in general. Now known as Mr. GripLock Ties. You had the title as Mr. Maxxis for a long time.
Yeah,
and,
I'm still that on Instagram though. I keep it just for fun.
There you go. And I did talk to Brad Williams the other day, and he agreed to be interviewed at some point, but he said get Creighton on first. So
he can correct all my stuff. No,
no, that was nothing like that. So anyway, Creighton, good to have you here. Let's talk about the beginning. Where did you grow up, and how did you eventually get involved with off-road?
So for me, I grew up in Utah in the Salt Lake Valley, and Jeeps are just always a part of our life. So my dad always wanted a Jeep, and I think he got a '78 CJ7. He was trying to find a 7, so we could put mom and him in the front, and 3 kids along the back seat, and 2 behind that. So there were 6 kids. He always wanted a scrambler, but those were hard to find back in the day. So we had that Jeep. Fun part in 85, my dad started borrowing a car from my brother-in-law from his brother in just before Christmas, and Dad surprised us Christmas Day with a brand new CJ7. I guess he had it for about a month, but he was hiding it from us. So that was our Christmas. His dad got a new Jeep. So brand new, showroom floor. It came with these crappy tires on it, and we thought we would just drive off and go four-wheeling through a field, and promptly got stuck Christmas Day. Sunk it up to the axles, and that's when we discovered we needed bigger tires, So we had that Jeep, and then in 86, they were going to quit making the CJ, and we didn't know what they were going to have. And my mom wanted a CJ7 too. So Dad bought an 86 red, and it was great. So growing up, we had 2 Jeeps. So mom and dad, 6 kids, 2 Jeeps, and we would travel across the country, and we took 2 Jeeps. So, Saturday afternoons or Sunday after church, we would go Jeeping. It was great. We got this map about all these trails along the Wasatch Front. And all these maps were published before all the greenies started shutting down all the trails. And so we looked at the map, and we're like, look, we can ride along the ridge line all the way from Logan clear to Provo on all these Jeep trails. And we would go to trail after trail after trail, and they were all closed. And that's what really started getting me fired up about land use, because these awesome trails, they were just arbitrarily closed. I had bad knees, and I couldn't hike them. So places you can't go, closed up. So Jeeps were just a part of me, young, started me politically also at that younger age, trying to keep trails open. Easter Jeep Safari to us every year was driving to Jeep Safari like the night before, and we would wake up in the campground there by the river, have the pancake Boy Scout breakfast, and then find a trail to go on. That was, 10 years old at that point, maybe younger.
Nice.
And so camping and jeeping and Jeep trails and getting stuck out in the middle of nowhere and having to dig the Jeep out and finding wood to put under it. And it was just a great time with my dad, and shooting guns and Jeeps, and, airplanes came about that same time. And it was great. I later went on an LDS mission to Florida. Before that, I was really into Volkswagens. I had a Volkswagen Boss with big speakers, and those all got stolen, and it was a major disappointment. So I came home from my mission, and I didn't have a car. Jeep Safari was coming up. It came home middle of March, and Dad's like, well, you need to come Jeep Safari. And I'm like, I don't have a car. And he says, look, if you buy a Jeep, I'll co-sign on it for you. So I bought, we bought this Jeep right here. So it's an 83 CJ7, 4.2 liter. Bought this, and we were going to Jeep Safari. That was the plan with it. I got it the day before we went to Jeep Safari. Unfortunately, we never made it to Moab that year.
Are you wearing a tie in that, or is that just the harness?
No, I was wearing a suit and tie. This is the reason I'm wearing that is because I actually proposed to my wife using this Jeep. So it was in May, and I was just smitten with my wife, Tanya. So she's just awesome. And we would go Jeeping with our buddies up behind the V in Bountiful. We went up there, and there's this pretty field with flowers. And I took her up there, and I like, hey, let's just go sit over here. And I proposed to her right there. And we took this picture. My buddy was a photo guy, and he's like, oh, let's take some pictures for your engagement. And so that's where
Awesome.
this picture was taken. So I still have this Jeep. It's on the side of my house. So this is the one that I ended up doing competition rock crawling with, was that Jeep.
Okay.
So I had the Jeep. It was great. One quick story, we were going to go that first Jeep Safari, and my sister was 16, and she had her friend in the back in the Jeep, and they were driving down before us in my mom's red 86 CJ, and this is in 95. And unfortunately, just after Green River and before the turnoff to Moab, they ran off the road, and he was ejected and died. Just a tragedy for our family. That Jeeps are not the safest thing to drive, necessarily. They've just been a part of our family's life. Jeeps have always been. So after we got married, I ended up doing competition rock crawling. And the reason that happened is my wife was driving the Jeep to work one day, and she got run off the road and hit a sign, which bent the spring. Well, if you're going to bend the spring, well, then you got to put a lift on it, right? If you can bend, so you got to put a lift on it, and then you got to do bigger tires. Well, then we had, I got involved with a Jeep SLC list. It was an email list, Brett Davis and, Carl Whitmore and Braden Kemp and the Utah guys were on there, Craig Stump. We started talking Jeeping, and, I ended up changing the transmission in my Jeep and making it better and building stuff in the garage, and tore it all apart. Before long, it was frame off, and I just kept working on it, and it was fun. I read every magazine, and, I'd go to the store, and there'd be, JPs and Four Wheeler and just 5 or 6 magazines every month. And I just really dove into it, and it was just fantastic. I loved working on my Jeep. I had Jeep friends. It was great. And I'm still friends with guys like, Braden Kemp and Carl Whitmore. Their kids go to school with my kids. So, we all live about the same area. So before long, ARCA started. You saw some of the first videos, and you're like, man, that's cool. Let's do that. And before that, we were, going up Pittsburgh Lake, up American Fork Canyon, Jeep trails in Utah, going to Moab, just trying to make my Jeep more capable, bouncing around in it, just me and my wife. And it was a lot of fun. And rock crawling started happening, and there was just no way I could afford to do ARCA.
So,
I
so
remember,
what was the first event you went to go see?
I never went to an ARCA event.
Really?
I never went to one. I just saw the videos. I would buy the videos, and there was talk about, let's do a Utah rock crawling series. So U-Rock was originally Utah
Oh, I
rock
know.
crawling. Yeah.
Oh, I know, because I was the club president in Cedar City, Utah. There you go.
Yeah.
I was the club president in Cedar City, Utah, and a friend of mine who was the vice president was Dave Burling,
Yeah.
and we were approached by the Utah Summer Games about putting on an event series, putting on an event, a rock crawling event there at Three Peaks as part of the Summer Games.
Oh.
Well, before that happened, I had been working with Ranch as the club and got him into Cedar City, helped him gather all of his judges and stuff. A lot of those guys out of St. George, Milt Thompson and a bunch of the people that helped him out. And I was friends with Craig Stump because he was in Delta with his club. And we, a couple of times a year, we'd get together and they'd wheel with us or we'd wheel with them down in Cedar, or we'd go up there to the Delta area where they wheeled. And so I ended up moving back to California and got ready to start Cal Rocks. And Dave ended up spotting for Craig Stump. So when they were talking on the way to one of the ARCA events, I believe it was an ARCA event. This is from remembering this from the time. Of course, I'd have to talk to Craig and get all the details, but they came up and started using the name, Craig says, well, let's start an event series. And he did. And Dave helped him out a little bit to start with. And then Dave moved off to Florida or something. I forget what all the whole thing was, but Craig continued with U-Rock. And it was Utah, the Utah Association. Exactly.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of it on the Jeep SLC list, and we would get together at these sandwich places, and a whole bunch of Jeeps would show up for lunch. And I was at one of those when a tornado tore down our building in Salt Lake. So Jeep saved my life. They really did. So I was taking a communications class at the Salt Lake Community College at the time, and we needed to create forms and communication stuff. So I wrote up the rules and scorecards and entry forms and created all these forms to start up U-Rock as a college project. And then I had to test out the forms. So we put on the first U-Rock unofficial event at Mini Moab, which is on the west side of Utah Lake. And there were about 10 of us there, and we had 5 or 6 judges, and we set up all these cones, but we couldn't afford cones. They're actually expensive. So I got those little flags that identify where you put a sprinkler.
Yep.
I got that and a little piece of foam, and I stuck it in it, and those were the cones. And we laid out the courses, and then we all had our score sheets, and I adjusted the score sheets as all part of the college program. And so when they had the first official event, I sent all that over to Craig, and they published it and used it. And when they had that first competition in Cedar City, that was the first competition I'd ever been to. I'd never been to one.
Was the first event there or down in Snow Canyon?
It was at Three Peaks.
Was it?
Yeah, it was in Three Peaks, and Ranch came and competed in it, and I beat Ranch by 12 points. Yeah, so it was great. That's my one claim to fame. So from what I remember, that was our first one. It was a lot of fun. There are a lot of guys. I drove my Jeep there, got a hotel room. I took off my front bumper, the doors, the top, the rear tire spare carrier, and left it all in the hotel room and drove out to Three Peaks. And it was great. We competed, and then I sent the engine through the radiator on day 2. Found a trailer to tow it home. But I drove my Jeep to most events for the first couple of years. So wow. I drove it to Farmington. I drove it to the Supercrawl. So I drove it to Vernal. We had events there, but I was a college student. I didn't have money to be doing this. I didn't have a truck to pull stuff. And now Brett Davis was my spotter, and he was, he had a truck and a trailer. So that's how he became my spotter. And plus he could pull
That's good to have in a spotter.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was great. I remember that first one we were dropping off and climbing something, and he was the spotter strap ran through the front onto the ground. So he ran out through the windshield, reached down to grab the strap and pulled it back up so he didn't have to touch the ground.
During a spotter ride.
Yeah, during the spotter ride. Yeah, because it was, he had the points advantage for doing it. So
right.
Yeah. That was fun. That was and then I was hooked at that point, which I quit golf,
That's a good thing.
My daughter's now in the high school golf team, so I'm having to play more of it. So
awesome. That's good. That's a good thing to do with kids for sure.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to cover was sponsorship. So sure. This is my Jeep right here. I had a Stout Appliance and Carpet on here in a magnet panel. At the time, I worked at a wholesale floor covering place. At the wholesale floor covering place, I knew a lot of the Ogden's carpet outlets and carpet places. So entry fees were about $300. So if I could get $500, I was really set. So I'd talk to the local carpet places and get a sponsorship for like $500, and I would take care of their signs and the graphics, put on the car. Then I would print out sheets. I'd print out, a sheet of coupon, whatever their logo with, a coupon code on there, URock or whatever. So they would go in and people would buy carpet. They got sales. So once I started doing that, I always had a sponsor from a carpet place. So, I knew that I'd never get, big money, but if I could cover my expenses, it was great. And, eventually I got some tires from Goodyear. Then Jeff Cummings from BF Goodrich picked me up, but I got a set of BF Goodrich tires the next season, and that was pretty cool. And then by then, my stock body CJ wasn't competitive anymore, and I knew that I wasn't going to be picked up again by BF Goodrich, so I was looking for additional tire companies, and that's about time for the Maxxis deal that came around. So,
and how did you? Brad said something, but how did you fall into getting the whole, Maxxis thing going?
So, Craig Stump, I was talking to Craig. We used to talk all the time, and he had been at SEMA and he had approached Maxxis, but they were looking to get on some cars. And so there was me and Chris Hawley he had a Bronco. And so Maxxis sponsored us, and it was pretty big. I got 10 sets of tires and $750, and my entry fees paid for. It was a pretty sweet deal. And so they said, well, what about, contingency? So I said, well, the top guys right now is BF Goodrich and Goodyear. So if you want people to run your stuff, you need to have a contingency that pays not just the top 2 or 3. So I got them to pay through the top 10, which were good for me because I was close to that. And, at the time we were getting like 50 cars, and there was one class. So that was pretty big. What I did is I would run the tires and I would run them in, and I'd sit there and do burnouts with them and started trying to grind it off the leading edge and with my flap wheel, and I'd run them. And then I made a deal with guys like Braden Kemp and Carl and the other guys to run my takeoffs. So, and the deal is you run my takeoffs and I'll give them to you, but you owe me half the contingency. So I don't think Brad knows this, but I was under contract. So it's like, hey, I'll give you a set of tires. You give me half the contingency. And so it was pretty sweet. Cause I remember Braden or Carl, one of the guys came in top 5, and I got $1,000 out of it. So it was great for me. And so I picked up other guys and, 2 or 3 other guys doing that. Then Craig was out. He sold to Mark and Mike and those guys. And so Craig wanted to be competing, and Craig wanted to put together the rock stars. So I helped him with that. Like, we printed out these these big sponsor books, and we wanted it to be really cool because when you go to SEMA, everybody hands out all these paper books, and most of the time they go in the trash. They really do. The guys don't want to take them home. So we wanted to make something so epic that nobody would throw it away. And I think Brad had this in his office for years and years. So I made them, and so it was a metal clip, and then the front cover was slate tile, like a 12 by 12 slate tile. We cut it down, and we had the Rockstars logo water jetted into the top, and then it was all in this welded thing. You'd flip it over, and it was massive. I think we only made 20 of them or something.
With the amount of weight that they must have been.
Yeah. Yeah. They were heavy.
You needed to bring a pack mule.
Yeah. So, and Craig carried them around, and he got us Eaton e-lockers and a bunch of other sponsors. And back then we all thought we were going to be the next NASCAR, right?
Right.
This is going to be the biggest thing ever. It wasn't. It was awesome. I love it, but it's not going to be NASCAR. It took us a while to realize that, but I still had a fantastic time. So we put together that team, and I kept grabbing guys with Maxxis for tires, and we put a bunch of guys on the tires. And at the time, my wife and I were trying to have kids, and we were unable to have kids, and we were going to adopt. At the end of the year, I looked at how much sponsorship money I had, and I needed $10,000 to adopt. And I'm like, what's more important? And so I told Brad Williams, I said, look, I can't, I need $15,000 if I'm going to do this, because that was right when they were going to have all these different series and you're run all over. And without that, I can't do it. I really need to concentrate on my family. And I was working as an accountant at a life insurance place at the time, last couple months of college. And I said, look, I can't do it. Brad's like, well, we need you. Will you work for us? And I said, well, sales? I said, I guess I could do sales. I've done sales. And he goes, no, we need a marketing guy. And at the time, Mike Farmer was doing stuff for the motorcycle department. Brad wanted somebody who knew rock crawling, and that was me. And we tried to do a deal and couldn't get it done with paperwork. This, Rich. It's tough to get things through corporate. I started going to events with Craig as Craig's spotter in rock crawling. And we were kind of building up the Rockstar name, and Brad Williams would come, and I'd get the crowd all hyped up and throw out T-shirts and, promote Maxxis at the events. And Brad thought I was doing a great job, and eventually we got a contract done. It took way longer than I thought. I ended up quitting my accounting job because it sucked. Then I rebuilt an airplane for a while, and I got a job with Ferguson selling plumbing. I was waiting till that contract with Maxxis was done and the money was in the bank. And that was the day I quit, the same day they offered me to run my own store for Ferguson. And I got the truck on a Monday, and I took it to Wrap Place, and they got done on Thursday. And the very first event I showed up to as Mr. Maxxis was your event in Congress, Arizona. And it rained. And it rained, and Bob Rogie slid in the mud and tore up his chest.
Oh, that was in Globe, Arizona.
Oh, Globe, yeah, not Congress,
yeah.
Globe.
Yeah, that's when everybody got buried. But we had you closest to the spectator entrance and to get out.
Yeah, I had a pretty good spot there. I didn't get stuck. That truck was awesome. It was everybody else got stuck. I think we spent all Sunday night and into Monday morning getting people out of that parking lot. Yeah.
Because
I didn't have a problem, and I bailed on you. Sorry about that.
No. It's all good. We needed you to move so that we could tow everybody else out without running into you, because that parking lot up there, it was all fill. And while it felt really secure, with the like 9 inches of rain we got that Friday, it wasn't so secure. It
Yeah.
softened up quite a bit.
That was my first event as Mr. Maxxis. It was pretty cool. So
That was quite the event. And
yeah,
then
I did it for 12
one of
years.
one of the events I remember you coming up to, you came all the way up to Goldendale, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long haul for you.
Well, that was, closer. I was doing about 50,000 miles a year, 40 to 50,000 miles a year on the truck. I would run, I remember times when we were doing the Nopi Drift events where I would go to California. I remember one time I went to California, San Diego for a torque event, went to Wall, New Jersey, and then I went back, I think, to Goldendale. Then I went back to Washington, and then I went somewhere back east to Creighton or something. We originally were just going to do rock crawling events, but we were trying to fill out the schedule, and it just continued to grow and grow. I was doing, the whole country and doing 40 plus events a year, for 10 years. And it was a lot of fun and a lot of miles, and was a financial disaster in the end. Fuel prices were going up, and, that's right when Katrina hit. And I originally thought fuel was going to be $1.56, and it was soon $5, and it just created a big hole that was tough to get out of. It was such a great kind of rock crawling family and race family that I had. It was like everywhere you showed up, you had friends. Some of them you just had friends because they thought they could get something out of you. There were some real fake sponsor friend people, when you could see it happening. You can see guys that, in the early days of Facebook that friend you and immediately hit you up for sponsorship. And it's like, but hey, that was my job, is to field sponsorship stuff. And we put together some really big deals, picking up guys like Johnny Greaves or Brian Deegan. Some of the short course stuff was big, and in rock sports, picking up Shannon Campbell. I mean, that was pretty epic. Shannon Campbell and really growing. And one thing that I'd like to share, one story was, it's kind of my first, it was that first kind of half year I was with Maxxis, and we were at a race in Three Peaks down there in Cedar City. And it was a U-Rock event, and Dean Bullock won the event. And it was the first time that one of our guys got on the podium. Brad Williams was there, and Jeff Cummings was there from BF Goodrich, and Dean Bullock got up there and he said, we're the best, and we're not some orange wannabe tire company. Is the way he said it. That orange wannabe tire company. And I looked at Brad, and Brad Williams, you could just see he was fired up. That was the moment that I really think that Brad decided that we were going to dominate rock sports, because it was a bad move on Dean Bullock's part to say that, because after that we really started growing. And there was a time when Maxxis was, we were clearing the podiums. We were clearing the podiums, and we had the top guys and the Bruce Zellers and we never got Tracy Jordan, but we were winning a lot of races, and it was pretty cool. It was kind of our thing to lose. Sad that I think Maxxis has fallen off somewhat in their resolve. I mean, we need another orange wannabe tire company, moment, but I'm no longer with Maxxis, and they can do what they want. But we had a great run, and it was really cool to develop tires. We were playing with compounds and the Trepador tire, and we came out with that, and trying to get the right sizes, and it was really cool.
So in those early days, they were creepy crawlers, right?
Yeah, the first ones I had were the Mudzillas.
Wow.
So, yeah, I had the Mudzillas. Those were pretty cool, but they looked a lot like the Mickey Thompson, and so they were kind of confusing. And whether the Mudzilla or the Mickey Thompson came out first, if you talk to Mickey Thompson, they say one thing, but evidence shows something else. The Mudzilla was out first. Mickey Thompson copied it, and then they threw a hissy fit about it because we hadn't been in the U.S. market with that tire yet, and they developed the Creepy Crawler. So, and the Creepy was it was a great tire. Especially you need to wear it in a little bit, like any rock crawling tire. And then we played with a lot of compounds, and I remember doing tire tests with multiple compounds and trying to find the ones that would really stick and do well. And I think we really had it. The Trepador is hashtag Trepadors are made for winning. That's what they do. They've got a tough sidewall, and it's a great tire. And I'm proud to have been part of that development because it's an awesome tire. BF Goodrich, their red label, they had the bigger names. A lot of them, they had the Tracy Jordans, and they had the Shannon Campbells, and they had a lot of those guys. Sorry, Nate, or Jeff, I don't think it's a superior product. I think the BF Goodrich red label just had the right names on it. It's a great tire if you want to poke a whole rock through the side of it, but it's, and if you have the right condition where it's just, straight up with one wall, sometimes it could be a little better than the Trepador, but you add some other conditions in there, and the Trepador was clearly superior. So
as a course designer, having done this now for 20 years, I get a chance to see how different tires perform on buggies nowadays that are very similar. Most of the unlimited rigs out there are really, really close. A lot of it is because Jesse Haynes has been building most of them.
Yeah.
And, he runs the Treps, and then you've got, Cody and Jeff McKinley and others that are running the BFGs. And I actually feel I can set a course to favor one tire or another.
Yeah.
Because there are characteristics that the tires perform better at or don't perform better at. My job as a course designer is to make sure that everything's overall at the end of the day a level playing field, whether it's the way a vehicle is built, how much experience somebody has, or what their equipment is like. It's interesting to do that, and then at the end of an event, look back on it and say, yep, I knew that the Maxxis would outperform there, but BFG had a more of an advantage over here. I like to think that it's pretty close now, setting that, because of the way the scores go. Nobody is blowing anybody out.
Yeah.
Of course, Tracy Jordan probably is, I'd say hands down, probably the best competitive rock crawler ever. And it's not because he was on BFGs. It was BFG had the wins because he was on them, is what I believe. Every time he comes back out of retirement, he dominates.
He's awesome. He's an awesome driver. He really is.
Yeah. Cody was giving Jesse a hard time one day, and he goes, yeah, get ready to get beat to Jesse online, and Jesse came back and goes, why, is Tracy coming out of retirement? But guys like Tracy and Josham and those guys there's some amazing driving that was going on, and it's not just driving, it's building the right cars and taking the time. And rock crawling's like other racing. You've got to know what you're doing. And how many times did we see rich guys show up, buy a nice car, and bring the biggest trailer and fail because he didn't have that time that a lot of these guys had. So it's rock crawling it's an amazing sport. It really is. And it's kind of like golf in this aspect. Like if you play golf, you can watch golf and you're like, that's cool. And rock crawling is a little bit like that, except you add horsepower into it. So, the clips of the big climbs and stuff are awesome. People get that, but the magic is in dodging the cone and 3-tire ruling and, knowing the sport. So, yeah. And it really does come down to strategy.
Mm-hmm.
A great example of that was Jeff McKinley, who was running around with Kevin Carroll, and they were doing, breaking all these big trails, and, fearless, they knew what it took to get get through an obstacle without cones. And then
Yeah.
they came out to compete with cones.
Yeah.
And they were both in these big red dot cars that barely fit because they're in the 90-inch wheelbase with, our cones are set at 101, and they started hitting the cones. And Kevin was like, well, you need to widen the cones. And I said, why? To give Tracy and Jesse more room to, they could drive, make U-turns in between the cones. And he goes, yeah, I guess you're right. Well, Jeff went the other way and said, okay, I'm going to build a car that fits.
Yeah.
That's a comp car. And he did that, and he started winning, and then he built a second comp car. And last year he won enough of the events to where he ended up being the national champion because he won like all 3 events. He understood the strategy then. But the first year, neither him or Kevin, they'd come out and, they were told the classic line, well, if you hit a bonus cone, it washes. So always go for the bonuses, because if you hit one of the cones, it washes.
Yeah.
Well, he got on one of the obstacles, he got 40'd out, and he goes, but those cones I hit were bonus cones, so they wash. And I said, only when you finish the course. And because he didn't understand the strategy.
Yeah.
And it bit him that time. I'm sure that some of the guys were sitting there laughing about it behind his back, but
I think some of the real game changers in rock sports, some real iconic cars, that came out, when Nelson built Tiny, and I remember in Farmington when it showed up, and just walking around it, like, it did look like it went to the moon. I mean, that's why it's called the moon buggy. I mean, it was so out of the box thinking, with the Volkswagen engine and rear mounted and all that stuff, and watching it with, I think they're some of the first guys that added weight to the front tires. How do you keep the front down? Well, they're full of lead shot. It was just amazing to see the progression that happened in the cars in that early time. Like some of the guys like Mike and Mark Patey built that 6-wheeler that they were going to run, but then hey, well, let's have a rule that there's only 4 tires. The rules change quickly. I'm seeing that in a new sport right now in the aviation STOL stuff right now. Things are changing quickly. You did that event with Doug down there, and rock crawling was really such a cool place to be at that time. And I met all kinds of people from around the country. One week you're in Congress and it's 105 degrees, and the next in Congress, California, or what was that? Cougar Buttes was like 8 zillion degrees, and we were in refrigerated trailers and, just trying not to die. And then you go to Jellicoe, Tennessee, where, there's 500 people and 473 big teeth, but you meet some really cool people. So you want to hear a fun story?
Yes.
All right, here's a fun story. So a little background. So I'm a Mormon. Okay. I don't drink alcohol, and, I'm not the world's best Mormon, but I try. So me and Craig Stump, also LDS, and we were back in Jellicoe, Tennessee. We had to sponsor Tom Woods Drive Lines, and Tom Woods asked Craig to find some moonshine. So we went, well, get a sponsor. I mean, I guess, take care of your sponsor. He takes care of us. So we were there, and it's this huge event. I mean, there were so many people there. And I think it was a U-Rock event at the time. And it was one of the first East Coast, when there was an East and a West. And we were there, and, we had these team jerseys on, and I was in an extra large, which did not look good, really. That's, Maxxis only made jerseys for bike riders, not spotters, And, we had the tents, and with Brad Williams there, and we were pimping Maxxis and throwing out shirts and having a great time. And then we found out we needed to find some moonshine. So I asked the guy, like, hey, we need to find some moonshine. And everyone just like walks away. Like nobody's willing to admit about moonshine. Well, it takes a few minutes. one guy and another guy, and well, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? And I didn't know anything about moonshine. I didn't know what, apple pie or peach cobbler or any of those moonshine things were. All I knew was the Duke boys. I knew the Duke boys get caught with moonshine, they go to jail, right? That's all I knew about moonshine. It's all from Dukes of Hazzard. So we talked to this guy, and he's like, how much do we own? He says, look, I want one of those jerseys you have. I'm like, man, I don't know. Those are pretty expensive. Wait a pile of them. Those are, I don't know. Those are pretty pricey. We can't just really give those things away. And he's like, well, that's really what we need. All right. So we said, look, we'll do that. So we met him. We were going to go meet him down this road, down this hill, and up a creek, and by the side of the highway, and like some kind of setup to get killed, and we got the Jeep back in the trailer, and it was me and Craig and Mikey, and we go to meet this guy at the end of the event, and it's dark 30 by the time we get out of there. Events used to go really long because there's so many competitors, and we pull off and we go down. The guy didn't have a phone, and we had to flash the lights, and we didn't know if we were going to get arrested or shot or robbed or what. But the guy comes out. We meet up. He loved that jersey. It was the greatest thing, and I think it's the cheapest 12 quarts of shine anyone ever got. So,
12 quarts for a jersey.
12 quarts, yeah. We brought those all the way back to Utah.
So you transported
yes,
unstamped
illegal liquor. Yeah.
Crossed a whole bunch of lines.
Oh, yeah. Like 3 Mormon guys in a truck with a trunk full of illegal moonshine, all so we could get Tom Woods drive lines because they were the best. So
That's a great story.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had another time I brought a guy to help me at an event. I found out he brought weed. I fired him and left him in the Carolinas. But back then, it could have taken my whole business away from me. So
Absolutely.
It wasn't cool, but
we were in Baja, Shelly and I,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and we'd stayed at Bob Rogie and his wife Paula's house in Gonzaga Bay.
Yeah.
And there was a guy there that we nicknamed him Spicoli.
Yeah.
After the character in the movie.
Yeah.
And total stoner.
Mm-hmm.
Wore like shorts, some flip-flops, and a tank top, and carried a backpack.
He looked like Yippee, one of Robbie Flandreau's friends.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We go out. We're going to Coco's Corner to pit.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Can I get a ride?" And I said, "Yes." And he grabs his backpack and he starts to get into the Jeep. And I said, "But I can't have you bring any weed with you."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, dude, you're killing me, dude." And I'm like, "No, you can't bring any weed. There's at least one checkpoint, military checkpoint between here and Coco's Corner.
Yeah.
And if we get stopped and they find the weed, we all go to jail."
Yeah.
I said, "Get the weed out." So he got the weed out of his backpack and he gave it to somebody else that was staying there at the campground. And I said, "All right, now you can get in the Jeep." So we got in the Jeep, we got out there, got out to Coco's, and we're standing around after about 3 hours. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Dude, you're killing me, man." I'm like, I really need a joint right now, and it was just, and I'm thinking, dude, it's been 3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
One of the things that I liked being the Maxxis guy was helping. I tried to help everybody. I had my tools and the welder. And, I remember one time there's this guy in back east that had this, who was really dedicated to those green and yellow tractors. So he had his rock crawler, green and yellow, and we went through like 4 different axles and eventually ran out of axles for his Dana 44 front end. And so we welded 2 axles together, an end and then the other, and we cut it and we welded that axle. And I guess we ran it for like 2 more years. It was fun helping guys. I can't remember. I can't mention or remember how many people crashed inside the Maxxis Marriott. It was, so many guys slept in there. I don't know if you slept in there, but
I slept in there during a KOH.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's when I was supposed to get a motorhome. I had it all set up, and then things didn't happen financially. Some money was supposed to come in, it didn't come in, so I had to. And it was down there, one of those the ones where it almost snowed, and it was super cold and windy.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Campbell was with me on that trip.
Oh, he doesn't have enough socks, that boy.
He doesn't have enough. He didn't have enough clothes at all.
Oh man, his feet. Sorry, Aaron. Oh my God.
In fact, it was so cold, and then Bo Neese showed up with his big Class A motorhome,
Yeah.
And he goes, "Where are you staying, Rich?" And I said, "I'm staying in the back of the Maxxis trailer, and I'm freezing my ass off." And he goes, "Well, why don't you move in with me?" And I said, "Okay, great." So I grabbed all my stuff, and I didn't tell Aaron where I went.
No, so were you were staying in the front or in the back in the upper level in the penthouse suite?
I don't remember where I was at. I just know I was in the trailer, and I was only there one night, and it was cold as hell. I went and stayed in Bo Neese's Class A motorhome. But you had like the crew guys that were down there crewing for you were all in the cab. I think Aaron ended up staying in the trailer the rest of the weekend, or the week, and I'm sorry about that.
Love you, Aaron, but man, he's that boy. Oh man, yeah. His socks, he'd take them off. It was like, just leave your shoes on, man. Well, yeah, I went there to that King of the Hammers, the very first one. Well, not the first one. The first year it was just the 12 guys or whatever. But that second year when it was an event, they wanted me to sing the national anthem, because I sang the national anthem at a lot of events, just because I didn't like hearing it recorded as much. I think somebody should sing it, and I was willing to do it, and it was an honor. I was at the Tour of California bike tour. I took a day off to run from San Luis Obispo down to do King of the Hammer, singing the national anthem, and there for the race, and I drove back to the next stop, which was somewhere else. But yeah, it was cool. I got to be there. So it's really weird to have not been at King of the Hammers, these last 2 years. So but man, it's so big. It's such a huge event. So,
it's gotten, I don't want to say it's too big, but it's lost its flavor that it had for so many years, where you got to see everybody, you got to hang out with people that were like-minded. There's so many things that are going on now in a week down there. This last year, we showed up on Tuesday and left Friday morning.
Yeah.
And stay out at Cody Wagner's, Laser Town, and just handing out the magazine. I don't participate anymore and help. Dave's got enough staff to do all that. He certainly doesn't need this old man do anything.
The last time I went, I was Tire Czar, Tire Nazi. Because I wasn't with a tire company at the time, and I hadn't been with Maxxis, and hadn't done. I was completely independent at that point, and so I know where all the bodies are buried. If you want to build a set of cheater tires, I'm probably figure it out. So I went and tested all the tires and made a spreadsheet and sent it to Dave, and that whole tire rule there was frustrating because I think Dave wrote the rules wrong. So when I told him how to write them, remember we had that meeting down there in Moab? I'm like, write the rules like this, intended for highway use. And he didn't. He wrote DOT. And it's like, you can put a DOT stamp on anything. So, I mean, the Maxxis sticky Trepadors are DOT approved because it changes the import. Tire rules I'm kind of a stickler on it. It's not impossible. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's kind of easy for a company to cheat tire rules. You can take a DOT mold and you can make a sticky rubber and put in it. Lots of companies have done it. I would get every once in a while a new engineer Maxxis that would just say, well, we could do that. And I'm like, yeah, we could. but we don't, and we won't. I wouldn't stand for it, and we didn't need to. We were winning pro light and stuff with it, and we're trying to stay legal, and that's one thing that Maxxis, the entire time I was there, we didn't cheat. We didn't cheat. We played by the rules. I was people really thought I was a real asshole at times because I knew when guys were cheating. So I remember one time a tire company built a special tire for one driver, and he pulls out he was getting his butt kicked by us every race. He pulls out on the track. I knew they were different. Before he even did the first lap, I walked over to their trailer, and there was a girl there, Gina, and I said, what's the deal? She ran and hid. And unfortunately, the series was sponsored by that tire company, and they were just allowed to cheat for quite a while. So, and that's some of the dirtiness that exists in racing is, unfortunately, if you sponsor the series, you're allowed to cheat.
Well, with a lot of series, the one thing that I've always done with our marketing partners is, I don't care if you're a marketing partner and you're a competitor, or if you're the new guy that shows up, and never rock crawled before, I'm going to treat you the same way.
Yeah. And even though Maxxis was a sponsor of, at the time we sponsored, all the rock. Well, we sponsored U Rock and We Rock until U Rock folded. But, we never asked you to do any to allow us to do any cheating, and we never asked for any preference. That's really all you've got is your integrity in the end. There are other series that, I had some real battles with those guys at Lucas Oil in short course. They would just, at one point I actually, we threatened, me and pretty much all the other tire guys, except for one company that was doing the cheating. They were also the title sponsor of the event, and they were cheating, and everybody knew it. And when they finally got caught, and we said, look, you guys need to fix this for next time we're leaving. And I vowed we would leave. And we were the only company that packed up in the middle of the race and left. We drove out in the middle of the race. Doesn't make you any friends with the series, but you got to make a stand at a certain point. But
Absolutely.
That's not my favorite company, but there's some other companies that I have a lot of respect for, like BF Goodrich. BF Goodrich, those guys, I'd show up most races. I was the tire analysis guy, tire groover, picker outer guy, make sure the guys have lunch guy, set up the, we'd bust our butt and we went out there to win. We had guys that came from rock crawling sports to short course, like Marty Hart. We wanted to win and do the best we could. We were a small crew, and BF Goodrich had a lot more guys, engineers and marketing people and all that kind of stuff, and a big crew, and sometimes 2 trucks and all that. And it was fun to kick their butt. So that was, when we would clean a podium, we did one event, and Marty was part of it, who came from rock sports. And, we were like cleaning the podium in Pro Light and Pro 2 and Pro 4. And it was really great. Those were, there's no bonus because of that, except, hey, that orange wannabe tire company's kicking some ass. That was pretty cool. So, but it takes a lot of dedication to do that. So
when I wrote the 3 classes, the rules for 3 classes, because I was the first organizer to put out 3 classes.
Yeah.
And we did unlimited pro mod and mod stock.
Yeah.
And I said 35, 37, and 40s, right? Because that's what the range of tires were. It was all by sidewall designation. At first, I did it, well, it's got to fit within this 35-inch or 37-inch. So guys would show up with, burned off tires that were, or undersized tires like Interco, they'd say it's a 44, but it would measure 37, so, but I went by sidewall designation.
Yeah.
And I remember Jeff Cummings asking me, going, well, why are you doing it that way? Why aren't you measuring it? And I said, well, because it's easier if I just look at it than to walk away and, have to have this tool that I got to use every single time. And then I got to go check again to make sure that while you're on course or after course. I said, if I just go by sidewall designation, then, I could look to say, okay, it still says 37. It still says 37 or 35, whatever. And he goes, well, what keeps me from making a 40-inch tire and putting 37 on it? And I said, because I'm going to measure it. And if you mark a tire at 40 and it's actually a 37, I'm going to call you a cheater.
Yeah.
I said, so don't do it. I still have my measuring tool. Don't do it. And he was like, okay, fair enough. They never cheated, but he was throwing it out there like, somebody might.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I still have that measuring tool.
Wow. Yeah, it was when I switched to Maxxis, Jeff Cummings, well, there's Jack. Jack was not happy with me. And
Jack was Goodyear. Yeah.
Yeah, Goodyear, but for a while he was BF Goodrich. So I think Jack didn't like it when I left to BF Goodrich. And then Jeff didn't like it when I went to Maxxis. But then after a few years being the Maxxis guy, I could really, gain the respect for what those guys have done. The Frank D'Angelos and have been in off-road sports forever. And you really, when you look at BF Goodrich, you really see their domination of Baja. Where I think when you look at Maxxis, you see Rock Sports is the Baja of Maxxis.
Right.
BF Goodrich was born in Baja, and we're really, we're born in, Jellicoe and Goldendale and all those places. Maxxis were really, that's where we made our stand at that point. And we did some other stuff, then we started doing short course and we did drift and all that stuff because, they had to keep me busy. So
yeah, the Maxxis do excel at longevity. They hold up better. But that's one of the things that helps them outperform the other tire companies. And I'm not just talking about BFG, but because that sidewall is so stiff, they can get away with a 17-inch rim on a 42-inch tire, give that sidewall in a bigger footprint, and still be able to, to perform.
Yeah, you usually
like a bigger rim.
You can usually wear, eventually you wear out the tread on a Maxxis, where on some of the others you wear through the sidewall before you wear out the tread. So,
yeah.
But
well, let's talk about
one legal disclaimer is that as of last year, I actually got sponsored by Michelin for my airplane racing. So I have to
very good,
but unfortunately, they don't make a tire that fits. So we're working on that.
So let's talk about your newest endeavor, GripLock. How did that all come about?
So GripLock Ties came about because, I was a racer that did tires. And so I tried to keep doing some racing. I did some of the XRA type events. I was still the Maxxis guy. And then I did some short course stuff. I rented a buggy from Mike Vandenheuvel and ran for almost 2 full seasons. Loved it. But I got injured at an event. I pulled this thumb off. I got caught in the steering wheel when I got hit in the gravel pit at Creighton. When I told Brad Williams about that, and I got hurt, and I had one driver kind of, I missed getting one tire ready one time, and he complained, and so Brad said I couldn't race anymore. And I thought, well, can't tell me I can't race airplanes. So I started racing airplanes instead, because they can't tell me I can't do that. And so I started, take my airplane hobby into racing, and, we've raced around the world with it. But I was working on my airplane one time, and I was running some wires along the engine mount. And we've all seen where like a regular zip tie, like a regular zip tie that's smooth, it just slides on stuff, right? And it'll cut through the wires on an engine mount. It'll actually cut through the paint, and then it moves and it scratches the paint, and then the paint wears off, and eventually it's sitting there jiggling. It'll actually cut through the steel on an engine mount on an airplane. And it's not 120 wall like you have on a race car. It's 035, 5/8 035. It's thin. So I was padding the wires, and one day I ran out of the color that I wanted, of electrical tape that I was padding it with, some orange electrical tape on my orange airplane with the orange engine mount. So I went over to Lowe's and I needed some orange tape. And they're like, boy, we don't have orange tape here. We have blue tape. You know, that's the other place that has orange tape. And I said, well, just give me the rubber lined zip ties. And they're like, yeah, there were zip ties, but they weren't. Nobody had a zip tie with the rubber lining on it that pads the wire. So this creates a place for the wires to kind of sit in. It cushions it. And so I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And I was thinking about it. And how do you stick rubber to nylon? I kind of figured that out in the tire business, trying to, especially with high heat and different things. So I understood some of that chemistry. And I built my first prototypes here in my shop with a Dremel tool and a zip tie and a little tube of RTV. And I thought, that's pretty cool. Then I realized that didn't work because it didn't slide through. You know, we've got these little patented grooves in here, so the rubber slides through it. I came up with GripLock Ties, and I told a few guys about it, like Adrian Cheney was going to help me fund it. And then I was talking to my rock crawling buddies, Mark and Mike Patey, who had bought U-Rock from Craig. And, you know, Ranch got involved. And at the time when I came up with this, Ranch was working for Mike and Mark with their company Prodigy Engineering, and they started that company building electric vehicles because they built a 6-wheeled rock crawler they weren't able to run in U-Rock, so they bought the series. Eventually those guys were into airplanes, and I was into airplanes, and so I was buddies with them. And it was we were at Oshkosh at the big air show one time, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were sitting around, and I had the Maxxis truck there and camping with the family. And I was getting kind of tired with the Maxxis thing at the time because I was never home. They're like, what are you going to do? I said, well, I got this idea to put this rubber lining on a zip tie so it doesn't move. And I had that, remember the razor I had? What is it? Yamaha.
The Rhino.
The Rhino, yeah. The one that Pistol Pete built me and loaned me. And I said, look, it'll go right here and it won't move around. And they're like, and Mark's like, that's brilliant. I want in. How much can I own? We stayed up till 3 o'clock talking about it, and with Mike and Mark and in the motorhome. And that Tuesday I went and met with Mike, Mark at Ranch and their Prodigy. And we did a deal to partner up with GripLock Ties. And, you know, I had to learn a lot about injection molding, and I've been business partners and friends with those guys, and friends for years and partners for a shorter time. And when I left Maxxis, I was unemployed for about 2 hours before I started working with Mark to develop Best Tugs and working there. And it really all comes back to, you know, it really comes back to just, you know, this Jeep. You know, we bought this Jeep, you know, and then, you know, I started rock crawling with friends like Brett Davis here. This is after my first rollover in St. George. And, you know, we built, you know, rock crawling has just been, it put me where I am. Look, here's me with BF Goodrich tires on it. So
yeah, I saw that when you held that up earlier. I was like, BFGs.
Yep. Yeah. So, you know, building GripLock Ties it was much harder than I thought. The mechanics of building a mold that'll build little things like this, it's difficult. You know, we've been working on this mold for quite a while, and I just got some of the first run prototypes on it. And, you know, it's a lot harder to make this one than this big one. But, you know, GripLock Ties have really, you know, this is our logo right there, GripLock Ties. You know, you can buy them on GripLockTies.com. So, and we're also on Amazon and some of our other retailers. And, you know, we're in Mackenzie's, and we're in a bunch of off-road places. So that's how I came up with GripLock Ties. And it's been fun because I've been able to, you know, sponsor some guys, you know, sponsor by giving them some GripLock Ties. You know, it's economically building a business like this is very capital intensive. But, you know, I'm still working from my house, and, you know, but hey, you know, we're taking up a couple storage units worth of space, and we're, you know, we've gotten into, you know, nearly 500 new retail stores in the last 6 months, and continuing to grow. And, you know, I really started promoting GripLock Ties through racing and through, here's like our little card. So, you know, here's a guy, Chad Rayford. He used to, you know, help drive my truck and groove tires, and we sponsor him, and there's my airplane there. But it's a racing company. You know, that's what we do. You know, we build stuff for race cars. Like Jeremy McGrath was one of the first guys to ever run a GripLock tie on his car. He had this piece of roll bar padding on his A-pillar, and since he would shift with his left hand, his knuckle would move that piece of roll bar padding. He had a bunch of zip ties on it, and it would still move. And so I put one of my prototype GripLock ties on it. We had them molded, built one at a time, and it kept it secured for the rest of the season. I thought, man, we really got something here. So, yeah, that was a few years ago, but we're growing. So, you know how it is, Rich. I mean, building a business is difficult, you know, and I hope to be one of those rich guys that people blaspheme someday, but it's not that yet. So just keep hustling, just keep working. You know, your podcast here, you know, I appreciate you being able to plug my little company. So GripLock Ties, because we just tried to make something better. Excellent. Just like you tried to make rock crawling better by having events that were fun to do. Like Josh England was a guy that I can't believe that there are guys that good out there on the planet, you know, because Josh would so dedicated to helping everybody out. You know, I remember showing up to an event somewhere in Georgia, up on that hilltop where the tornado came through.
Yep.
And showing up and, you know, man, I've been driving, and Josh like, here, let me do all this stuff for you. It was like, holy crap, Josh, you know, I can't make you do all that. So We Rock, they just really took care of us as sponsors, and because we were more than just sponsors. I mean, we're lifelong friends, you know, see each other eye to eye on everything.
I try to do that with our marketing partners. That's why I don't like the term sponsor, because it is a partnership. It truly is a marriage, you know, to make the whole thing work for everybody, whether it's the drivers, the marketing partner, ourselves, the spectators. Everybody has to be able to work together to make it all work. That's why I absolutely despise the term sponsor.
Yeah. I get sponsor requests all the time. You know, do you guys sponsor? And I said, well, you know, for us, it's, you know, the thing that's important for me with my small company is that I sell product. I have to sell product to feed my kids.
Right.
And it's that literal, you know, I have to sell product to feed my kids. And, you know, when I tell that to guys, they get it, that sponsorship is not, you know, it's, if you race, you're not entitled to anything, you know. And so many people think that they're entitled. Well, I race this and that, and I'm going to put my sticker on my car. So it doesn't matter, man. Are you going to help me feed my kids by selling product?
That's right.
So I have a deal with guys like, look, if you'll help me sell it, and it's easier to do now than in the past, because they come to the store and they use your offer code, then I'll pay you a commission. And that's the best thing I can do, you know, because the more you'll push, the more product I sell, the more you sell, the more you get. So, and I've got some guys that are fantastic at it, you know, that they don't win, but they are helping me support. I can help support them if they help support sales. So,
right. And that's what that's what I term influencer. That's another term. That's another term I can't stand, is influencer. Because an influencer to me is somebody that actually helps you sell product and has the background or the technology or the education to talk about the product beyond the, oh, hey, look at how pretty it is.
Yeah.
Or look, it's on my rig. You know, it's, that to me is not influencing anybody. It's that's another one of those terms, sponsor and influencer.
Yeah, well, they also call it, like, now, affiliate marketing.
I like affiliate marketing.
I like the term affiliate marketing because I can send you know, display product to sales guys and they get a commission. That's great. I will also, you know, I can send you some product to run on your race car and I will give you commission. You help me sell it, then I send you a check. And the guys that get that are getting more product. So I'm seeing that in you know, I've been more involved in like the aviation racing lately than I have been in car racing. And, you know, I'm seeing more and more of that type of stuff.
Right.
I've got one guy that, includes a GripLock Ties thing in his YouTube videos that he does. I just wrote him a check for $1,000 for last month. That's cool. That means he's helped me sell a bunch of product. So
Absolutely.
like Mike Pavey, who's my business partner, so I don't pay him commission, but he's been building crazy airplanes, and he's getting 140,000 views in a day on his crazy airplane builds. And when he mentioned GripLock Ties, I mean, it took me days just to fill the orders. It is important that guys provide good content, and I think if you want to race and get free stuff, I don't think that's going to happen as much anymore. I think you've got to actually drive the sales, because it's easier for people to keep track of it nowadays to drive the sales. But one thing that I've told guys through the years is wanting sponsorship. I said, look, man, getting sponsored is the crappiest job you'll ever have. It is the lowest pay for the most work that you will ever do, because guys like, well, I got a set of $1,200 worth of tires, but now I have to go do 10 different events. Well, that's the deal you made, so you got to show up and do it. So
yeah,
I remember one time there was, I think it was Rock Supercrawl 2 or something, or Supercrawl 1 or something. And I done all this work on my Jeep. That year I broke like everything, and I changed the transmission, and I went down there, and we're in Farmington, and I broke, and I changed front drive shaft and rear drive shaft and axles, and tore out the rear end and rebuilt, put new gear set in the rear end. And my dad, about halfway through, he was like, why are you doing this? And I said, well, because I have sponsors and I have to do it, because I committed to it. So, to anybody out there that wants a sponsor, well, you're probably better off to go to McDonald's and pick up a few shifts and buy your own air shocks or your own tires or something, because otherwise you just signed yourself up as an indentured servant. I did deals like that with guys, and that was my job, get guys to run events. And if some guy's getting more money than you, it's probably because he's better.
Exactly.
So it's, don't feel like you're beef because Tracy Jordan got more money from BF Goodrich than you did. Well, Tracy Jordan's awesome. Like, maybe you're not. No offense. That's the reason I got cut from BF Goodrich, because I wasn't that good. So, guys like Maxxis would pick me up. Well, they wouldn't pick me up a couple of years later because I wasn't good enough, because they build a good product. So it's just an expensive hobby. It really is.
It is.
So, and that's how I do my airplane racing too. I have some sponsors in airplane racing, but I really don't, because I got to the point I just put my logos on it, and I'd rather just buy the stuff. So,
but you understood it.
Yeah.
You understand the game, because it is a game. It's a business. It's a game. It's, what you can provide, that return on investment, ROI, that everybody talks about. You did it with the carpet guys that you started off with.
Yeah.
You built that affiliate marketing back there when nobody knew what affiliate marketing was.
Mm-hmm.
And now with our bed and breakfast or our hotel, we're set up to where if somebody goes through us to become an Airbnb host, we get a check.
Yeah.
And so Shelley not actively pursues people, but puts it out there. Hey, if you're ever interested in, let me help you become an Airbnb host.
Yeah.
Because she's good at it. That's what she's done.
Yeah.
But she's been good for me anyway. So that's another story. But Creighton, is there anything else you want to touch on? Think you got it all, or?
I think we got it all. I mean, I don't know if I have any other great stories. I mean, I learned how I can change a trailer tire in 8 minutes on my big Maxxis truck.
That's amazing.
We got pretty good at that. Man, we did a lot of miles, but it was a lot of fun. The biggest thing I got out of being Mr. Maxxis for 12 years was the friendships. It really was. Guys like you and Jesse Haynes, and Francisco and, Arturo and Robbie and Carl Whitmore and just great people, Jason Jordan and cool people. The one thing that, if I could end on one thing, is the thing about racing is it makes you a better man or woman. But America is built on the spirit of racing, to do something better, to be a little bit faster, to make do with a few less dollars so you can still go out and compete and be the best you can be and not giving up. That's what racing is about to me. And that's why racing people are different, because I think they're better.
I agree. That's a great place to leave it. Creighton, thank you for your time.
Yeah, you bet.
And good luck with GripLock Ties, and say hello to everybody up there in the Salt Lake area you see. And,
you bet. So here's the thing, Big Rich.
Yeah.
So if they go to GripLockTies.com, okay, and they order it, and I'll give them free shipping. And if they use the code Big Rich, I'll send you your affiliate marketing check too.
There you go. Okay, everybody, don't go buy a regular zip tie. They're crap. Get GripLocks, because they're going to save your body panels. They're going to save your wiring. They're reusable. Mm-hmm. Go to GripLockTies.com. Get Creighton ordered, and remember, the code is Big Rich. Yep. All right, Creighton, thank you very much.
My pleasure. I'm going to make sure I enter that into the shopping thing right now.
All right, there you go. All right,
Thanks, Big Rich. See you,
all
buddy.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.